Welcome back to Pancakes and Pajamas. I hope your flow is going well, and whatever you are going through, I hope you are growing and learning maybe something new about yourself or ways to help you get through your flow. I'm excited about today's episode in the regards that I think it's going to be very helpful to us. And although I don't think it's going to pertain to everybody personally, what we're talking about today, something that does pertain to all of us, though, is, and I'm going to read a verse for you, is Galatians 2. And Galatians 2 says, "Bear ye one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ." And whatever we are going through, and the topic today, some people are going through, they have gone through, they will be going through. God wants us to help them bear their burden. And with things that I have not gone through, when someone talks about it, that helps me know how to help them bear their burden. And that's why it's important. I feel like it's important that when the Lord does have something that he has us go through, to learn from it, to grow from it, but then to talk about it, to help other people. Because then you can help someone else behind you that is going through that same thing. And today's topic is, we are talking about miscarriage. And like I said, I have not gone through a miscarriage, so I could not give a talk on this topic. And maybe you think I have not gone through that either. But more than likely, we all know someone who has gone through a miscarriage. And if you don't, you probably will in the future. And this episode really is, we're going to hear Stacy's story. And because she has gone through multiple miscarriages, but we are going to pick her brain, I guess you would say, and hear some things that helped her go through this process, and then that will help us to be able to bear someone else's burden and to be able to help them get through difficult times. So my guest today is Stacy, and so Stacy, very happy to have you here today. And to help us learn more about how to help people who have gone through miscarriages. And so I'm going to throw it over to you, let you introduce yourself to our listeners, and then pick up right away where you want to start.
Okay. Again, she said my name's Stacy, and my husband Dan and I have grown up here and gone through the school system, and we have been married for 17 years. We have 3 children, Ellie, Timmy, and Ava, freshmen, 7th grade. 5th grade.
There you go. I can't believe it. I remember her in junior high because my husband taught in the junior high when she was going through junior high, and now her freshman in high school. I teach her.
Yes.
Hit the high school. I can't believe how time just goes on.
So fast.
Yeah, it's great.
It seems weird because I feel like it was yesterday. You were in high school.
Yeah,
we were in high school.
I know, right?
So I work here at Hammond Baptist Schools in the grade school, and I've done that. This is my 4th year. I teach 10th grade girls Sunday school, and my husband drives for an A bus route, and so we get to ride along on Sunday mornings and sometimes get to go visit and work in the nursery. So those are ministry things.
Those are great. I love it. So today's topic that we're talking about, I talked to Stacy about doing this episode with me, just a episode, and just asked her, like, what is something that is near and dear to your heart, an episode that we could do. And she came back with, she goes, I really want the Lord to be able to use what I have been through to help others. And that topic was miscarriage. So I do feel like the Lord is in it. We have both been praying about it, praying that it will be a help. And I think the Lord will use it to help those going through it, but maybe help those who haven't to help others bear their burden. So Stacy, let's start off with, because you mentioned you had how many?
4.
She's had 4 miscarriages, and so I think you have a little story or something for each one of those. Okay, so we'll pop right into that.
Yes, it's not humorous, of course, going through miscarriages, but I was telling my husband it is interesting because each one of them was around either a holiday or a big event. It was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah.
But the first one happened, we just had my son, who's our second. We've had 2 kids. We had our son's first birthday party at our house, and he had just turned 1, and we told everybody we're expecting. Then it was about 2 weeks later, I found out there was complications. So went in and found that we it looked like we were probably going to miscarry. But my husband was in between jobs at that time, and he, on June 2nd, it was a Saturday, we just went to Cracker Barrel, and I had the 2 kids. I have a picture. We just had eaten, and that he left because he just got hired for the railroad. So he had to go to Atlanta for 3 weeks. So he took off that morning. Of course, I'm mom,
Right.
little kids. It's 3
Don't
weeks.
leave me for 3 weeks with all these children.
So he leaves, and that afternoon we were going to my in-laws. Most every Saturday we get together with them, and I miscarried that evening, and he's gone halfway, but he really can't come home. He's
Right.
getting hired. We haven't had a job. It was
Right.
during the slump of the, construction stuff. Anyways, so that was really tough.
Yeah.
The next one happened actually on Christmas Day, so that's always fun. A good Christmas gift, right?
Aw.
My second one was after Ava was born,
Okay.
which I should probably just quickly insert, which I was possibly might refer to it later, but after my first one, and then we had Ava, when I was expecting Ava, I thought, oh my goodness, we're going to go through this again, because there were complications. But it was just a tear in one of my organs in the womb. And so she was born happy and healthy and well, and we're so thankful for that. She was actually born 2 days early. All the others were 11 days late.
Oh, that's
so
me. All
she's
mine were late. Oh.
She's our kind of spirited
Yay.
one and came from day one.
Good.
So I am grateful for her. And then after her, we've not been able to have any more. But in December 25th of 2014, so about a year after she was born, we found out we were expecting again. And it was close to Christmas there. And Christmas Day, it got really, really bad.
Wow.
So I ended up having to take an ambulance. That was fun. And my first and only ambulance ride. Hopefully it's my last.
Yes.
And ended up having a surgery there at the hospital and
wow,
got that one
okay.
taken care of. So that was really sad. Then St. Patrick's Day. Why all these holidays? I don't know. St. Patrick's Day 2 years ago, 2021. Found out we were expecting again, and it just didn't take.
Yeah.
And then youth conference of this last year, actually.
Wow.
So that was kind of a recent one. These were not quite expected, but the Lord knows.
Yeah.
And so, being at home during youth conference, and the plus was I got to watch all of it. That was nice. I don't usually get to see much of youth conference. We're all involved. But all of mine have been, and we'll talk about this, but you find the good. And I'm grateful that they were all early. I mean, nothing longer than 11 weeks.
Okay.
A lot of people struggle with miscarriages where you're going 8-9 months,
Right.
and then that's just a whole different ballgame of grief
Right,
because
yeah.
the baby is formed and all of those things.
Right.
And where these, you didn't really get to meet the little one,
Right.
but the Lord knows. And so those are the stories as far as when we've had all of ours. So.
Okay. So hearing those, I did not realize, number one, that you had that many, and your last 3 were after Ava here for 9 years, and the one before Ava. So Ava really is sandwiched right in there, and she is probably an extra little blessing, of course. But there's a quote that says, "This is where faith begins. In the wilderness, when you are alone and afraid, when things don't make sense." And that is by Elizabeth Elliot, who we all know has been through a lot in her life, and for her to be able to say that is powerful. But also it has so much truth to it, because sometimes things that we go through do not make sense. To us, we think, well, why wouldn't the Lord want us to have a baby? We feel like we're raising him in church and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. It doesn't make sense to us. But that is where we have to learn to trust that God's ways are higher than our ways, that his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And I know that you've had to learn that probably along your way, but in every situation, whatever difficulty you are going through, it is at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to us, but obviously it does to the Lord.
Right.
And so we have to put back our will, our thoughts, our faith, and just say, all right, dear Lord, I don't know what you're trying to do, but I trust in whatever you are doing.
Yes.
So,
some thoughts on that and trusting in God, because that's the biggest thing I've had to learn through all of this, because it's just one day at a time. I was just listening to a preacher. Someone shared a sermon, so I thought I was recently had a cold, so I had a little bit of time on my hands. And he talked about the Bible verse where it says, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." And I'm sure I've heard this, but it never really sunk in until the way he said it. And he doesn't give us a spotlight. He doesn't give us, a long distance look at our path. But that's where the word of God and trusting in God comes in for each step. And that helped me a lot just even recently. And then, of course, everything's clearer in hindsight. But for going forward, too, just knowing that, the Bible really is my best friend. And I'm not going to have a spotlight to know, but like Elizabeth Elliot in that quote, and the little bit of faith and the trust that I can have now is helping me every single day, no matter if I'm going through a miscarriage or a great day. Maybe it's a great day, but why?
That's very good.
Yeah.
I've not heard that about the word as a lamp
Isn't
unto
that
my
good?
feet, about just each step. The Lord doesn't let us see.
Yeah.
Because if we did, then we would be him. I mean, because he can see everything. He can see all of our steps, but he just wants us to have faith to take that next step. That's very good.
Yeah. And so I don't know what all the Lord's trying to teach me, but I know that I've told him through each one of these, Lord, whatever you are trying to teach me, I want to learn, because I don't want to have to keep going through the same circumstances over. But of course, the Lord allows things in our lives for seasons and for different times. I know even your daughter-in-law, Claudia, the ladies' conference spoke and mentioned about her when she broke her leg, and just that was a season and a trial for her. But the Lord helped her, and she learned a lot. And something is, why can I trust God? Okay, I'm being told to trust God, or I know I should trust God, but why? Why should I trust God? But because of who he is why I can trust him. And that's something that has been very, very influential in my life, is just learning the names of God and learning who he is. And my most favorite name of God is that he's mighty, or almighty. Almighty is actually my favorite, but mighty is the segue into it, because my sister-in-law, 2 miscarriages ago, I was hopeful. In the beginning stages of a miscarriage, it's a roller coaster of emotions, because you think might be issues, and then you are very hopeful and you pray and you think, well, maybe the Lord will just perform a miracle in this situation. And sometimes he does. Like in the instance of Ava, I thought we were going to miscarry again, and she's a beautiful 5th grader now. But with the roller coaster of emotions and his name, she texted me, and I told her, just pray, because I don't know the results yet. I haven't gotten all the blood work and stuff back from the doctor. And she said, he's mighty. And I will never just forget the even visual of reading that text. That was huge to me. And I've tried to encourage others with a name of God like that, because he is mighty. And no matter what he chooses to do, I can trust him because he's mighty. It's not about me, and I can trust him. And our pastor has recommended to us, and my mom's encouraged me just to tell the Lord out loud, I trust you. And you know that. And that has been huge, because when I say it out loud, I have to hear myself.
Yes.
And I'm telling myself while I'm trying to believe it and live it.
And you believe what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's huge. And of course, my life verse, and I claimed it when I went to college as a freshman. Trust in the Lord, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. And I claim that. Because how else am I supposed to live and go through those kind of things? And this, in my mind, this is huge, but for other people, this would be petty, because of other huge things they've gone through. And, but each one of us gets our own trials, our own
the Lord knows.
situations, and
what we need to go through. And, I want to go back to where she said her sister-in-law text her that, and sometimes we can feel maybe a little awkward, someone is going through something, and to text maybe a spiritual text like God is mighty, or saying something, but we never know. Like whatever the Lord wants you to text, we just need to text it. Because we don't know how, obviously that has made an impact on you. That we don't know. The Lord will use it. And sometimes we think, oh, that's a little silly to say, or I don't know if I could say that. That's not really me. It's not about us. The Lord wants to use it to help that person and for his glory. So the Holy Spirit gives you an impulse to text something or to say something, and we just need to do it, because he's going to use it in a mighty way. And then the second thing is when she said about saying out loud, I trust you. And it is, whatever we say, it's so important about how we talk. And that is, that we can put that into a marriage relationship, our children, being critical of somebody. The more you say things out loud, the more you hear them, and that it gets ingrained in your heart. So it's so important about what we are saying out loud. But if you are struggling with trust, or you've gone through something, you don't understand it, I feel like that is a great thing to do, is to say it out loud. Dear Lord, I trust you. And to say it over and over until you hear it so much and it's ingraining on your heart, and then you start believing it, even if you're having a hard time.
Because it's not just a one-time phrase, like you said. It really is an over and over, because I'm choosing this. It's a choice.
Every day. And sometimes if you're going through something, it's in every hour. And sometimes it's every 15 minutes, because we don't know certain times that I feel like the devil does want to pounce, and especially when we're going through a difficult time and make us question, like, does the Lord care for you? Look what he's done. He's given you 4 miscarriages. What about that? You know, and it's just like, hey, I'm going to speak truth, and he's going to have to leave because I'm going to keep speaking it over and over again. But that is a very good, almost like a little exercise, but a way to help yourself is just to say that out loud. That was very helpful. So
that's good. It's something to continually remember because you know,
absolutely,
we all need.
Yeah.
Why can I trust God is something I thought of, but also why should I? You know, I know I can, and why can't I? But why should I? Because He's worthy of my trust. You know, God created each of us, and He knows what He wants us to go through. Not because He's trying to punish us or hurt us when we love Him, and but He is worthy of us to just trust Him. Just like a parent with a child. You know, you tell your child, go and take out the trash. Well, why should I? Because I said so. You just trust me. Life's going to be a lot better for you if you'll just obey. No, we don't have to know. That's a silly example, but, you know, there's a lot of truth to it in the fact of, you know, we don't know why God's allowing these things, but we know because He's worthy. And He has a plan.
Yes.
He really
made
does.
us.
Yes.
He knows us best. He knows us better than we know ourselves, more than anyone else. And for some reason, He did not have me go through miscarriages like Stacy. He did not have her go through some things maybe that I have gone through, because He knows each and every one of us. We are fearfully and wonderfully made, and He knows, hey, she could do this, and she can do this. She can't do this, and she could do this. He knows us best. You know, when you're saying that, there's another quote by Elizabeth Elliot, and she writes, God is God. Because He is God, He is worthy of my trust and my obedience.
That's good.
And that's just because He is. He made us.
Yeah.
So we need to trust, hey, you made me. I guess you probably know what is best for me, when the right timing is for me. And it is, but there's no reason or rhyme in our heads. We can't make sense of things sometimes. We just have to let it go and trust that, you know what, God knows what He is doing. He does not need my help.
Well, a woman's mind too, especially when you're going through something emotional, gets just weaved. The devil plays with your mind and your thoughts, and you go on all kinds of rabbit trails, and you can get yourself into really deep, despairing moments.
Absolutely.
And in any circumstance, but in something like this where it's very emotional, even when you said that you need God every hour, you know, it's sometimes every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And by trusting and just don't make it complicated.
Yes.
Just God is God, and I have to go back to that. I trust you. You know, it's okay. It's
Women like to complicate things.
I know I do.
Talk to our husbands. We make it so much more complicated than it needs to be, and it is so simple.
Yes.
It's just simple, like, you know what? God, He is God. He's worthy.
Yes.
And that's all there is to it.
Yes.
So I just need to learn to trust.
Right.
But sometimes it's just a difficult road.
Right.
Because we like to go on all these side trails, and we just need to stay on that path.
And because He has a plan, He wants to carry my burdens on this path. Because He didn't just throw me out here and just say, try your best and fend for yourself. And he really wants to carry our load. Because it's too heavy for us. And we don't really know what to do with all of our hurts a lot of times. Especially if you've gone through, or if you go through a miscarriage or have gone, that first one, you really don't know what's happening. And even then, even every miscarriage is completely different. Your body's different. Your emotions are different. Your circumstances are different. Everything's different. It's not going to be just a blanket, oh, I'm going through this again, so I have points 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to, it's going to be easy. It's all different. But God wants to carry it in 1 Peter 5:7, casting all of our care upon Him, for He careth for you. And that's something I'm learning more and more. We just had that educators conference, and I've also got to do a little bit of study on Mary and Martha, and she was distracted, and that's the word cumbered means distracted, and I learned that recently. And I just feel like that's all the devil wants to do in our burdens, in our cares, in the everyday that we go through. Everything wants to just throw all the distractions our way, and everything except God. And if we just go back to uncomplicating it, like we were saying, and and looking for God, looking to see how He's helping me. That's huge. Trusting in God, can I, why should I? But through all of it, looking to God, looking at how He's helping me. How, if I'm looking, I am noticing your children. When we are looking to praise them, we we have to look harder than we do to find something naughty. It's way easier to find something naughty to correct them on than it is to find something to praise them on.
Yeah.
But we want to find those points of praise because that helps them grow.
Yes.
And when we look at what God is doing and how He's helping me, silly little ways, but to me they were huge because I'm in bed, I'm having to rest, I'm not being able to do all the things, but the timing of things and watching how God would timely make sure my other children were taken care of, or timely bring a meal, or just timely allow a doctor to be there when I went in, or a phone call, or just God's timing in the little bits where you see Him. If you're looking, you'll see Him. And
part of that, she mentioned already, and this is what I talked about at the beginning, not all of us have gone through it, but the Lord wants to use us to help bear her burden. She said, bring a meal. Someone took care of her kids. Someone had a phone call. But sometimes we don't know what to do. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But I think this is where, if you feel like this has not happened to me, I've already had my kids, great, then we need to listen and hear those ways. Hey, how can I be used through the Lord to help her carry her burden? So that she can give praise to the Lord. It's not about giving praise back to us. The Lord is using us. I want the Lord to use me to help her so that she can say, dear Lord, thank you so much for that phone call, for that meal that was brought by. Because that's the Lord setting it all up. But He needs vessels to use. And so we need to learn how we're going to bear a burden about this situation. Well, we need to hear it. And we need to equip ourselves with knowledge and hey, listen to the Holy Spirit, and then we need to do something. So I thought that was very good.
It's so huge because if someone, God, like exactly what you said, when God uses people to help me, and that's how I see Him. Often, I mean, I'd say 99.9% of the time, the way I am seeing God through circumstances is through other people. And you may not know what to say. Like you said, we will get to a little bit more of the details and some practical ideas at the end. But when you don't know what to say, it's better just to say something short and sweet and meaningful than do nothing. And because if the Holy Spirit is prompting you, He really wants to use that for that person's benefit and for His glory, like you said. So that is huge. We get in our own way and we start worrying about how's that going to sound, or that's not enough that I just make a phone call. Maybe that's all that she needs at that moment. She doesn't need an elaborate meal, or she doesn't need something big. And that moment, she was going through something and she just needed a phone call. So we need to stop second guessing ourselves and just trust that the Lord knows what He's doing. Absolutely. And that sort of leads me into the next thought with feelings during miscarriage and feelings that I might feel and feelings of my family. When you're talking about maybe sending someone a text message or doing something and you think, oh, it's just too small. Well, it's not, because that person's probably, that's my first thing, is very lonely. You can only go through a miscarriage yourself. You know, nobody can actually bear that physical burden for you. You are the only one that is able to care for that. And everybody else is an aid and an encouragement. But your family's also hurting in their own way. I actually asked my husband last night, because I don't know that I've really made a point to ask him. And again, ours were early. If we had had an older baby, an older child, it probably would have made him feel differently. But you know, I asked him, I said, what were some of your feelings when I was going through this? He's like, just to take care of you. And I was like, oh, well, that's insightful. And I appreciate that. But during that time, you know, you try so hard not to make it about yourself, but it can feel that way because you feel very lonely. And you're going through it. And your kids, like I had 2 kids at home, and then this last one, all 3 of my kids, I mean, my oldest, you know, is 12, 13, and, you know, they're sad. They got all their hopes up because we told them, you know, and then it's like, let's just deflate the balloon, you know. And then they're wondering why mom has to stay in bed for 2 weeks, and then they're kind of carrying the brunt, and they're going back and forth to school and caring for things, and they carry a load too, not just emotionally, because they don't always understand, but they carry a load physically at home, and
you know what she said. Even like I said, I've not been through a miscarriage, but you said like if it would last, it was longer, farther along. But still, I can imagine even being 11 weeks, like you've already seen in your mind a baby. You know, so even though it's physically maybe not bigger, it still seems like your mind is already gone towards the end. Maybe not for other people, but for you, if you're carrying it, you know, as soon as you find out, you're expecting that that's already a baby in your mind. I don't know, so I imagine it's very different no matter how far along you are.
Well,
but I understand that,
yes.
the people who have
I know.
stillborns or those, that is
Yes.
probably a totally different ballgame. Again, but I feel like moms, we just as soon as we find out, like you said, your hopes are all up
Yeah.
here. You're already planning the room, what they're going to look like and all
Yeah.
that. So.
And it's interesting too,
Yeah.
because if you have the first one, that's sort of a gut punch, because you just didn't expect it. After the first one, then you become very sensitive. Okay, am I gonna keep this one? What's the guy gonna do here? And so you don't want to tell anybody. But then we made that mistake with the second one. We didn't want to tell anybody until we were miscarrying.
Yeah.
And then we're like, by the way, we were expecting, now we're not. All in the same conversation.
Yeah.
That's awkward and weird. But what do? You just do what you can do.
Yeah. I don't know
So
how.
it's a roller coaster of emotions, and so
Yeah.
for people in those early days, it is tricky.
Yeah.
Being sad and lonely, and that accepting that reality, it's good, and you do need to cry. If you don't cry and you really do just bottle it all in and just put on a face for everybody, you're going to really struggle later. It's important to go ahead and just cry. You don't have to make it all about you and be dramatic with others, but just alone with the Lord and with your family, it's okay. During my miscarriage, I felt very lonely, sad, and a lot of people, I feel like they would feel that way too, because you're going through quite an emotional roller coaster, and you're about the only one that's going through it. And of course, I've already mentioned your family is going through it with you.
Yeah.
But during that reality, and after that reality, there is a choice, and we already hit on that, but trusting God is a choice. Saying his name out loud, and I trust you, Lord, and as many times as it takes, just because he really is worthy of it and he is mighty. That's my choice. And then thirdly, just finding him, and we've already hit on that as well, but being thankful. It is, and also it's a choice. I feel that during my miscarriages, everything, it's happening to me, and I can't control what's happening to me and through me, but I can control how I react and how I act and what I'm learning from it. And I don't want it to be wasted. I don't want God to, if he has a reason for doing it for me as far as any sort of correction, which I don't really feel like it's usually that. God's not unkind.
Right.
But he does love us so much. If there's something that he is wanting me to learn, it might be through this avenue. It could be through something different. This might be a way he's just helping me learn more about who he is. And that's something I learned from this. Just more of who God is. But seeing him with my eyes open, walking through this and finding ways to be thankful and finding the good, it is also my choice. I thought of this example just recently, and I felt like it was comparable to a party. We plan a party for somebody, and sometimes they're come and go, and sometimes they're sit and stay. And I feel like my party that I'm having is probably going to be a pity party, because it is. It just is not fun. There's nothing fun about a miscarriage. You could bring me a million meals, it still wouldn't make it worth it. Okay?
Yeah, it's not going to fix it.
No, it doesn't
Right.
fix it. It doesn't change it. It still is what it is.
Right.
And I can have a pity party, and it's very easy to invite myself to my own pity party, but it should just be a come and go. It should be a come and go. I need to realize and accept my grief. I need to accept my circumstances. I can't deny it. It's happening. But I can't just say, I'm going to just sit here and stay for a very long time, because I am affecting everybody else around me. It's really important to process and cry, but I also need to take care of myself. I need to heal physically. I need to take the rest I need. You need to allow people to help me if they're willing and able. There's certain things that they're not going to do for you. Most people are not going to come to your house and do your dishes and do your laundry. But when I physically am not able to carry a laundry basket because I'm not supposed to carry extra weight, or when I had little kids and I really can't pick them up, that is hard and frustrating. But when I do take what I need to do to take the time to get better, I need to take my vitamins, I need to get the rest I need, I need to just be good and careful and mindful of my own health during that time, then I can help my family, and it really will be okay. You know, God does bring you out of it, and like any other circumstance. And we talked about ladies' conference, things are in seasons, and we don't live in a miscarriage, but it is something that we go through. It happens to us, and then it's how we can get back. And I do feel like there's some fault in being too fake, where you just kind of bounce back and make everybody feel like everything's great. Well, it's not.
Right.
It's not okay. But I can choose to still have a good attitude. I can still choose to try to help my family and trusting in the Lord, because God is with me carrying my load. We've already mentioned that, and it's It's the simple foundational things that I've learned and I'm learning in this life that help me. It's not hard, it's not complicated. The situation is, but trusting in God, it's a choice, my attitude, it's everything. And that's how I heal, not just physically with vitamins and rest.
Right.
I heal spiritually because I can trust in the Lord through that. And
But I love that analogy of the party. That was fantastic, because a lot of times, whatever flow we are going through, and we're going to go through different flows in our life, we do want to sometimes have a sit and stay. And honestly, some people do. And they end up miserable, and they end up depressed, and they end up going through such a hard, long time, because at the end of the day, we are choosing. And sometimes I understand it can be a very big mental thing. I mean, it can really, different things can really affect us.
Yes.
But we need to decide that, hey, this is a come and go. It's here, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm gonna have to go through these different steps, like you said. Have a cry. You know, we need to.
Yeah, you have
It's
to.
a very difficult time. But keep telling yourself, this is a come and go. This is gonna go. And I have a husband who needs me, like Pastor would say, fulfill my family role. I have kids who need me to play my family role. I still have kids I need to take care of, or I still have responsibilities that I need to do, and that's okay. That's good. It gets us up and like, okay, this is what happened. I'm gonna take the time I need to grieve, to be disappointed, be sad, but at the same time, I'm gonna trust the Lord. He does know what he's doing. And for some reason, which I don't know, I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna be sad, and it's okay. It might come in waves. I don't know if it did for you. Does it come in waves of where you're doing fine, then all of a sudden it will hit you?
Yes, and actually that's where I was going with just the after miscarriage. You know, where you're thinking what might be happening afterwards. You know, when you're getting back in, you've gone back to work, and your kids you're not resting anymore, you're not in bed anymore, you're taking care of your house. What are some things we might go through? And that is expecting for the grief to catch you off guard. It's so real, and it comes in like a wave. It comes in at very inopportune times. I might be in the elevator at church, and I see a really cute pregnant lady. And then it just like out of nowhere, I was doing just fine. This is weeks, months later. I've even had it happen a year or two later. And it just sometimes just really sideswipes you, and you just think, that might have been me. She's so cute, you know, and that was supposed to be me. And then I can start jumping back into my pity party. But that's where some self-control and discipline and just trusting in the Lord, once again, just under my breath, just saying, God, I trust you. And if I don't quickly jump out of that, I'm going to be unhappy for that lady and almost despise her. And that's not right. I am truly happy for that lady. I mean, God gives life, and we're happy for anyone to be able to have a child. And I don't want my grief and selfishness in that moment to deprive her of her blessing. And that's huge. You go to a baby shower, those are tough. But at the same time, time heals. And those are a lot easier now. A family member finds out they're expecting, and that just recently happened. But then that poor family, and I went through all those emotions, and I told my husband the day, I was sitting there in their kitchen, and they were telling us all this good news, and I was like, okay, Lord, like, help me get it under control, because I about wanted to burst into tears, and it was still fresh. It's been a year in July, or over a year and a half almost. And I'm like, oh, that could have been me. You know, I want that joy and delight. But then realizing, oh, that person is so happy, and I really am happy for them. But then sadly, that poor family member did miscarry, and that was her first, and I was able to do what I could to try to help. And that's where, again, after this, I can use what I've been given to help somebody else. And you don't have to have gone through it to know and be able to bear someone else's burdens. But having gone through it, it's another avenue that God can use us to help other people.
And sometimes we take it more from someone who can understand.
True.
You know, what they've been through. But I feel like it is important, if you've gone through something, definitely to reach out. Because what she was saying about months or years down the road, sometimes maybe the Holy Spirit will prompt us to text somebody. and say, for some reason the Lord has put them on your mind, to text them. Or maybe you think, hey, I want to do something for her. I wonder why, that nothing's gone on. Well, we don't know what is going on in their mind. If they've gone through a miscarriage or have gone through something could have come back up, where you're having a difficult day and just the Lord just wants you to know, I'm thinking about you. The Lord wants you to know, hey, I'm right here. I know what's going on. Yes. I'm here for you. But it is, whenever the Lord places someone on your mind to do something, to text something, whatever it is, we just need to do it because the Lord knows that person needs that at that time.
Yeah, that's so wise. And I feel like that's just the whole crux of being able to help bear someone else's burdens is just trying to stay close to the Lord where you are, trying to listen for his promptings because that's huge.
Yeah.
I know something else I clung to when life had to go back on. I'm not, like I said, no one's bringing me meals anymore. No one's, doing all the things for me. But clinging on to the promise of heaven, even with a little tiny miscarriage, I had someone for my very first one. It was a college roommate, and I had seen something she'd posted because she also had gone through a miscarriage. She called them angel babies. Okay. And I've heard that term many times. Now, whether they really are or not, but I don't know. But I like to think so. I just like to think that one day when I get back in heaven, there's going to be 4 little ones that are going to greet me.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of people that have gone through a lot. Our pastor's wife has gone through many. And it's amazing until you've gone through or you learn more about somebody that has, how many women really have gone through miscarriages. It's uncanny.
Yeah.
And some people look like, oh, it was just a breeze, and maybe it was easy for them. It's hard to sometimes know because you don't know how personal to get with somebody.
Right, and we don't always see us in public.
Exactly.
We don't see people. A lot of people can put on a front.
Yeah. You didn't see us in our house with 3-day ponytail hair and terrible pajamas that have been on for way too long because you're just home and not feeling good.
Right. Yeah.
And that's the truth of it. And anyone that's gone through would know. Or if you've been really sick, you know that feeling. And it's like, oh my goodness, But clinging to heaven and how wonderful, the wonder of that thought is precious. And I can cling on to that, and that helped me, okay, I can get back into society. I can get back into what I need to do and care for my family because it really is, in the end, going to be okay. God is carrying me. He's helping me. I trust him. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
And you said a quote. You spoke to the juniors a few years ago, and I've just never forgot it, and I use it for my kids, but I can do hard things. And I can do hard things because God made me to be able to do that. He would never give me something that he would not carry me through or allow me to bear.
Yeah.
And that is really huge, and I've taken that to heart. And God can and will help me do what I need to do because he does love me. And I can relish in that. When you're feeling sad and lonely, or if someone's feeling and going through a tough time like this, when you just relish in the fact that God really does love you, Jesus loves me, this I know, the foundational children's Bible song are, one of the first songs you ever teach a child. It's the first because it's the most important. And if, as an adult, and when you're sad or lonely, that is huge. And praying and asking God for wisdom and help in the mind of Christ, because as we already talked about, our minds are going to play horrible tricks and roller coasters on us.
They are,
So.
Mind is deceitfully wicked. Deceitfully, I don't know what to say.
That too.
Deceitfully wicked. It is. It likes to make us think things are true that are not true. And that is when we need to speak truth into it. Like, I trust you, God.
Yes.
When we're having a bad mind day, when we are wanting to have that pity party all day, but that pity party includes doubting that God loves us, that he has a plan, that we have to speak truth.
Right. So in processing and going through aftermath and after miscarriage, listening to good uplifting music, we may have already mentioned that, but going through and making sure that what's being input into my mind and into my life is positive. That is huge. I feel like if it's not positive, it's going to just keep bringing you down, and you need to keep bringing yourself back up because that's your whole circumstance is bringing you down because it's sad.
Yeah.
There's nothing really happy or good at all about a miscarriage.
Right.
Something I thought of too was in the end times, especially after you found out from your doctor, this is not going to be a viable pregnancy, this is not looking good. They have you keep coming in to the doctor. So if you've never been through one, or if you have, you could understand or think about the fact of going to the doctor's office and there's other pregnant women in your doctor's office, so you're watching them come for their visit, and you're going in there just to have them take your blood draws and watch your numbers come down. And you have to keep going in until your numbers go all the way down until they're about nothing, so that they can tell that your body has processed the way it should. And that's hard. And so keeping your mind positive and realizing that this is okay, God has me, going through all of the thoughts again every time, because that is trying on your spirit, and you just want to go back to your car and just sob, because it's just an emotional process, and it's part of it, and it's hard.
And it sounds like it's not like a day, 2 days. Like, how long do you go in for those blood draws?
Well, for weeks.
Wow.
For weeks, until they drop down to 0.
Okay.
So this whole process of miscarrying, especially, if you found out you were expecting, say, 6 weeks, and then you go in to try to get a couple early appointments to try to, make sure everything's good and listen to a heartbeat, and then they're like, well, I'm not seeing a heartbeat, it might be too early. Then you come back in, like, nope, still small, we're not seeing any movement. And then you're realizing you're starting the process, so then it's just week after week, or 3 or 4 days, sometimes a week, depending on how much they want you to come in. And then they're checking your blood. And so it's not a 1 day, it's not a flu season, it's not a week, it's a couple months, to tell you the truth.
I did not realize that myself.
And something that really you wouldn't think of, and I didn't realize that either, just because you kind of feel like, well, once your body has done what it needs to do, and then you're great, but they're watching for you and making sure you're staying healthy, and the fact of watching your blood counts and all of that. So, it's just emotional on every level. So,
and it could turn into a sit and stay party.
It could,
because it has gone by weeks and weeks.
Yes.
And you're not seeing an end.
Right.
You're not seeing, okay, where's the go part? You're like the come and go. We've come.
Yes.
When are we going to go?
Yes. So that's where going back to your car, give it a good cry, turn on some good music and start singing. Okay. Do something that will help lift your spirits and tell God, I trust you. Yeah. This is going to be okay. I'm going to grieve, but I'm also going to trust you. And it's going to be a come in, it's going to be a go. And the feelings will not always be so strong. Right. Okay. And then one of my favorites, just a silly thing that's my thing. We were talking a little bit ago that I love Pollyanna. The Disney Pollyanna movie is my absolute favorite. If you ask any of my kids, what is mom's, does she have a favorite show, or does she have anything that she likes that just kind of encourages her, helps her? It's Pollyanna. She plays the glad game. And so
she plays the
glad game.
I'm not familiar with Pollyanna, so I'm going to have to go watch it. Apparently.
So I think you told me what yours was.
Anne of Green Gables. And I think it takes you back. I think, did you watch that as a little girl?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, see, I read Anne of Green Gables. I read the book before the movies ever came out. I read that when I was in 3rd grade. Okay. And so that's a comfort. Almost people have their comfort food. That is a comfort story, movie, whatever. So that's funny that takes you back to your Pollyanna.
So I can sit there for 2 hours and I can watch Pollyanna, and the world's just a much better place
there
now.
You go.
So that and a cup of
She's
tea.
played the glad game.
So, she's a little orphan girl, if you don't know the story, and I won't go all into it, but then she lives with her aunt, and the whole entire town changes because of her coming. And it's just a fun story, and I love it.
That's
my
funny.
kids all know, and so if anyone's sick in our house, we turn on Pollyanna.
And poor
Whether they
Timmy,
like it or not.
poor Timmy suffers through Pollyanna, right?
I know, poor guy. He's a good boy.
So
those are things to think of through after a miscarriage that I might be, or someone that's gone through a miscarriage might be going through or feeling. Life goes on, but the Lord helps us, and clinging to that promise of heaven and expecting the unexpected feelings to wave through, because they will.
Yeah. And it's going to be weeks, so you have to plan that in your head. No, this is not a quick come and go.
Right.
This is going to be a couple weeks, but it will go.
Yes.
Okay.
And then, how could I help? This is one of your big crux.
It is, because I want to be able to help bear a burden. I don't know what it's like. I want to pick your brain to see, what can we do, for others out there who haven't gone through that. What is the way that we can help bear your burden? What is the way we need to listen to the Holy Spirit? And whatever it is, it might seem like that's not very helpful. The Lord's going to use it. And the Lord uses different things in different ways for different people, and at different times, whatever they're going through.
Right.
And so, yes. So I feel like number one, which I had just written down a couple things, but one is, I would imagine you would want just acknowledgement not people just to ignore, like act like nothing's happened.
Yes.
You just someone to acknowledge it because you
Yes.
said at the beginning that you were what?
Right.
Lonely.
Yes.
Right?
Very lonely. Sorry.
You don't know.
Again, lonely. No.
No, but you said at the beginning, right, that
Yes.
was one of the big things about
Yes.
people, me, not acknowledging it
Right.
because I'm not acknowledging it because I don't know what to say.
But it's also tricky because a miscarriage is not something that you unless someone is just an avid, like everyday poster on Facebook, which most people aren't. I'm not.
Yeah.
It's not something that anyone's going to know. Mm-hmm. It's going to trickle through your family. It's going to trickle then to coworkers or people that like, I'm not going to nursery today because I just want to let you know I miscarried. I'm not going to be in nursery today. And it trickles through people because of people you walk with in life. And it's not that I minded. Some people are very private. They wouldn't want anyone to know. If that's you, then I completely understand. But if you are kind of middle of the road or you don't mind, I don't think it's a wrong thing to tell people personally because I need the encouragement, whether I realize it or not. And it's hard because then I feel like, oh, I'm just telling everybody my story. I'm making it all about me. But I really do need the help.
Yeah.
So that's where my pride is kind of twisted. I'm really not trying to be prideful and telling you I'm going through a hard time, but I want you to know I'm having a hard time.
Yeah.
Because that's how the Lord's going to help me by you help. It's a circle.
Yeah.
By you
to
helping
bear your
me.
burden.
Yes.
Yes. And
So-
sometimes when I have found out a friend has had one, I mean, I remember a friend telling me she had one and it was like a year ago. And I remember being like,
Yeah.
why didn't you tell?
Yes.
And I say that because I've not been through it. I don't know how that feels. But I was like, I could have done something. I could have prayed for you. I could have done something. But we all handle things differently, and we all respond differently. And some people want people to know. And, But I do think, Galatians 6:2 is bear you one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ.
Yes.
That he made us to help others go through whatever they are going through.
And so if you can't tell somebody, because it's kind of weird just to be out of the blue, just like, hey, just so you know, it's just a weird text.
Yeah.
But if it applies to that season of life that you're in or a job or something, that's a little easier avenue to let them know. But then I never minded that people knew. So I sort of wanted to tell people, but I didn't know how.
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things where you could even maybe tell a family member or tell someone, hey, I don't mind that you tell people if you feel like you need to or want to, because it's personal, but it's not, I don't mind.
Right.
But that was me, so.
Okay. All right.
Something.
Some other ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think I already mentioned earlier, but doing something is better than doing nothing. And even if it truly is just texting and saying, I am praying for you, that might be all you personally can do. Like because I'm working full time at the school now, I have to be careful because I want to do more. I love doing meals for people, and I do try to do that. But in the season of life, that's not always a reality for me. I can't just make a big, huge meal for them. But I could go to the store and I could maybe pick up a few groceries and leave them on their doorstep. Or I could maybe send them some Apple Cash or I could, I don't know, I could send them a text or a card, or I think that might be something you were thinking too, just different things like that. So.
Right. Yeah, no, and anyways, like helping, like I put down here, helping with chores or tasks, because she did state, when she did go through one of her miscarriages, she couldn't pick up the children that she did have, or you can't carry a laundry basket, and I understand that sometimes that's just like close friends that you would be like, hey, I'm coming over, stay in your jammies, but if you have a friend like that, it's almost like you don't ask, like, hey, do you care, is it okay if I come over? It's like, no, I'm coming over. And I'm going to help you do this.
They're going to tell you no.
Right. We all do, because we're all like, no, we can do it.
Right.
But
like my mom, I was privileged to live around my parents, and I'm grateful for that, and my in-laws, and both of them through every time were just so helpful. But my mom would pop in. She'd stay for 30 minutes. She'd do all my dishes. She'd make sure the kids had what they needed and pop out. Or she had them for a little while so I could just rest. Or if you have a friend like that, it's not a unkind thing to come and do someone's dishes. They might just sing your praises. So
I would.
It's not a it depends on how close that friend is. A perfect stranger, you probably would not want them in your home. But someone that is a close friend that you're close to, that is a nice act of kindness for them.
Then talking about, we had talked earlier off camera about avoiding unsolicited advice. But Stacy brought up a very good point. And my point was, like, sometimes people, we all know it, if anything, you have a cold or something happens, your kid is sick or something, everyone has their remedy, you know, or they want to tell you, oh, maybe you could try this or this. And sometimes, my husband always says, unsought advice is seldom heeded. You know, sometimes we're just like, yeah, I didn't ask you. But, and sometimes women are the worst at that.
Yeah.
And we don't like it, but then we do it to everybody
Right.
else. But she made a good point where she did say, and I'll let you tell them what you said about that unsolicited advice.
I feel like if you make yourself available to someone and let them know either, hey, I've gone through this, or I just want you to know that I care, that if you have any questions that I could help with, or just making yourself known through so many words that you are available if they have any questions. Because if you have gone through it, that person might not know. Like if I'm going through a miscarriage and it's the first time, I don't know what I'm going through. And you could tell me what you went through, and it might be something that could help me. But I may not know what to ask, and for you to give me unsought advice might be weird for you. But if you make yourself available, then I know that I can come to you, and I can get questions answered, and I can feel comfortable with having somebody that I know that I can go to. So I think I said that in a very lengthy way, but
no, but
the
that
fact
made,
to make yourself available.
Yeah, I thought that was very
for
good,
others.
because I would not have thought of that. You know, but to let her know, hey, I've been through what you've been through.
Right.
So if you need someone to talk to, or advice or whatever, you know, feel free to contact me. I think that is a great idea.
And sometimes even just that text of just, hey, I'm thinking about you today, I'm praying for you, it already opens the door. Where you didn't give me any advice, but you just told me that I'm praying for you, and I already feel a connection, where I feel like if I did know you went through, I already know, okay, that person cares, they were thinking of me. It's something as simple as that, where I could go to them and then ask them a question, or confide in them maybe even just a little bit. And they, you know, some of my sister-in-laws, they had never been through miscarriages, and they never knew what to ask me, and I felt bad because they felt bad. And they just felt like it was weird and awkward, and so they would just text me, how are you doing today? And then I knew that was kind of like a secret code where I could just I could be real with them, their family, and I could just go ahead and tell them, okay, this is how today went, and it was not a great day today. Or I could tell them the improvement that I made today, where they may not know the right questions to ask, but the fact that they asked a question and made that connection was so helpful. And then they left it in my court. If I didn't want to answer, then I didn't really have to say much.
So just to know that someone cares enough to make that step.
It was really helpful.
And then for people who have had miscarriages that maybe contact you, was it a help thinking, okay, wow, I didn't realize this many other ladies, this many ladies have gone through that? Was it helpful to know, like, hey, they did it, they got through that? That is an encouragement to me. I don't know, is that?
Yes, oh,
part
so
of it?
much.
Okay.
Because until you go through a circumstance, okay, silly example, if you get a new car, you notice all the other cars that are just like yours. When you have a miscarriage, it's like the Lord just gives you this little bit of an insight, and He keeps bringing people across your path that have had that situation. Like, okay, I work in the nursery. You go, you know, when that circumstance came up and I mentioned I had a miscarriage, and then all the other women can tell, like, well, I've had 2, or I had 1, and you're like, are you serious? Like, I never knew.
Right.
And it's a way to also connect with people, and you can share your stories, and
which is therapy, talking about it, I'm sure.
And it just kind of builds you together, and it just helps you know that you really aren't alone. You're very much alone during your time in your trial, but afterwards you realize that I'm really not alone, and it's just something that a lot of women do have to face, and it's not happy, but it's encouraging therapy. It's good to help find other women that
have gone
have
through
helped
that.
through it. Yes. A couple more ideas of things you could do for someone. These are all things that had been done for me and our family. Was my mother-in-law, she made some meals ahead. She made some quick, easy meals. I mean, she works too, and it was just so kind of her, and she made some meals that I could go put in the freezer. So I didn't have to use them then, just whenever we needed food, I could pull that out. It was so helpful. Fried chicken meal from Strax. We had a teacher at the grade school, and I was asking my kids, like, hey, help me remember some things that people did for us, and that was one of them. Simple fried chicken meal from Strax. It's classically good, and it's easy, and it's ready to go. So if you are working, that's an easy one to be able to drop by someone's home. Soup, that's always a great one, especially if you're making soup for your family. It's probably made enough for an army, and you have enough to throw in a container and take over to somebody, because they can also freeze that, and it makes for a nice lunch, because you're going to still have to eat lunch, and it's usually by yourself or with a small child. Another lady that brought the soup, she actually packed a freezer bag, and she had, there's 5 people in our family, and she had 5 bowls, 5 spoons, 5 napkins in a freezer bag. And so she didn't have to go out and spend a lot of money to buy me all my paperware, but she had enough for that meal, and it was very thoughtful. And I was like, that took her a few minutes or a second, you know. But to think through my situation, and that meant a lot to me.
Yeah, easy cleanup.
Yeah.
Moms always like easy cleanup.
For sure. Flowers, you can get expensive. You could get, you know, or you can go to Strax. You could get a $5 bouquet and throw it in a jar and drop it off on someone's porch. Or you could get pricey, and it is sweet and meaningful if you have means to do that. Someone sent us an edible arrangement once, and that was so nice. Of course, that's fresh and beautiful, and felt very unworthy to get something nice like that, but that was nice. One of my dear friends makes signs, and she made me a sign that had the dates of my first 2 miscarriages on it, and it was so sweet. And I've left it in my living room, and we're gonna try to update it to put the other ones on there, and that meant a lot to me. Something practical that I could see. I feel like practicality is a lot of the ways in some of these things, but at the end of the day, of course, it's just a thought. But cookies, bake a bread. Groceries on a doorstep. I had another lady that I know she had to have spent a lot of her paycheck because she works in the ministry. She left probably 5 or 6 bags of groceries on our front porch once, and I'll never forget. And she told me later, I just want to make sure you were taken care of. A lot of like those individual microwave meals and yogurts, things that my kids could grab. It was so thoughtful, and that I never forgot that. A blanket. Someone gave me a blanket. I love that blanket. It's one of those like soft chenille ones, and I still have it on my couch. That was comforting practically. I literally held that blanket and loved it. It was perfect, and that meant a lot. A bracelet. My in-laws gave me. That's my hair tie. Sorry, my bracelet. I've worn this for the last 2 years, and I've never taken it off. It's one of those that you pinch it, but inside of it, it says. I have you in, God has you in his arms, I have you in my heart. And that was something simple and practical that my in-laws gave to me that I love, because I can wear it all the time, and I can trust God with that promise of heaven. And
just a reminder.
I love it.
What a great gift.
And then probably lastly, I mean, there's all kinds of things. You just get creative. Anything thoughtful for that person is going to mean something to them. It's not what you do. Oftentimes it's the thought. But books are, I will give a really quick story. Not this last miscarriage, but 2 before. I was on Facebook, and I saw somebody I don't even know. I still don't know who they are. They were advertising something, and they had written a book on miscarriage. And they said, if you put your name in, you're going to go into a drawing for a copy of this book. And I just put my name in, and wouldn't you know it, my name was drawn.
Good job.
And this lady sent me a book on miscarriage.
Oh, wow.
Right during that time in a season of my life. And I just felt like that was just a kiss from the Lord, just a hug from God, just saying, I see you, I know what you're going through, and I care about you. It's the little things that always I was watching for and looking for that meant so much to me. And another book that I have had for a little while now, but I brought was, I was talking about the names of God, but this is called 10 Minutes of Praise Using the Names of God. You can get this on Amazon for about $10. But this book is, you can use the book different ways. If you read the introduction, you'll understand how the lady has it designed. But she wrote, in her personal Bible studies, she just tried to write down throughout the entire Bible every name or reference to God she could. The book's not 100% perfect as far as sometimes, like, I notice like a typo. But as far as like sound and the names of God, it's been so good and so helpful to me. And all it does is it has 14 different days, and it's got about 2.5 pages, and it's alphabetical. So you can take, and this is day 3, and it starts with E's, and it says, Earnest of the Holy Spirit, Ephesians 1:14. Ebenezer, 1 Samuel 7:12. He's our elect, Isaiah 42:1. But when you have the name of God, then she recommends you go to the Bible, go look up the verse, and read who God is. Because when I learn about who he is by his names, then I can learn more about him, and then I can learn who he is in my life and who I can trust, bringing me back to my very first point, like, why can I trust God through all of this? Because of who he is. And I feel like this was just a wonderful tool to help me dive into my Bible, which I brought this Bible today. This is not the Bible I take usually anywhere, but it's King James, of course, but it's my women's Bible. And I love this Bible. If you don't have one, I would recommend if you're looking for a good Bible. But it helped me get out of myself. It helped me look to the Lord, helped me find his names and who he is in my life and who I could claim him to be for me today. So she would recommend you taking 5 names, writing them on a 3x5 card, and reading them in the morning and at night before you go to bed.
Oh, okay.
I personally enjoyed just taking 1. And I would keep a bookmark wherever I was, because if I missed a day, then I just pick up at the next day, with my Bible reading, whatever.
Right.
And I just picked 1 name of God or 2, and I'd take a highlighter and I'd highlight it, so I knew I already looked that one up. And then I'd go in my Bible and I'd try to highlight it in my Bible. And it just helped me get to know God better, which in turn just helps me live a better life trusting in him.
Yeah, seeing how many things that he is.
Yeah.
Very powerful.
Right.
Yeah, that is great.
So
I thank you so much for coming today, for talking, and for giving us insight to what it is like almost in your brain. We don't know what it's going to be like to have a miscarriage, but maybe what goes on and the length of things and some feelings that you go through. And I pray that it is a help to you, that when you hear someone has had a miscarriage, that we will remember some of these things that she has said that they are going through, and then just to acknowledge it, pray for them, and then to reach out in some kind of a way. And it doesn't always have to be that first week. Like she said, it is weeks and sometimes months that they are going through it, and then sometimes it'll come back in a year or so. But definitely to do something. Ask the Holy Spirit to help you, to figure out, hey, what can I do for this person? And then to do it. As I like to end this broadcast is just to rise. In the morning when I rise, I need Jesus every day. I want to rise. I want to renew all that stuff from yesterday, all that junk we've seen, we've heard. We need to renew our mind in truth. We need to renew our mind in God's word. We need to wake up in the morning, realize, dear Lord, thank you for letting me rise, but I need you. I need to wash my brain. I need to get that truth in there, and I need to shine. I need to shine for him throughout my day. Where does the Lord want me to go? Who does he want me to talk to? I need to shine for him. So don't forget to rise, renew, and shine for him. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope the rest of your day goes great and your flow is going well.